Welcome everybody to another Ask Me Anything. Yeah, it's just a place where you have questions and I answer them. And this is for kind of the spaces of self-directed education, parenting, all the life that is involved with that. Why might you be asking me in particular questions? I'm a certified teacher, practitioner of unschooling for the past 7 years. I'm a writer on kind of all things parenting, unschooling. I'm an advisor for self-directed education. I'm a coach. And I'm a homeschool evaluator in Pennsylvania. Because of that last one, I've been a lot more busy in this past month in June because the season just ended. So it was a little crazy rush. So I apologize for those that have been reaching out by email. Um, I'm just getting back to answering at this point. So yeah, you submit your questions. I try my best to answer them. Um, I am not an expert and you know, I'm just offering things. So what I offer, maybe it resonates, maybe it works for your families. Awesome. Keep that. The pieces that don't, just let them go. All right. Um, yeah. So I have a pretty interesting question today. Let's see here. And yeah, I'll read it now. I have two teenagers who have quite a restricted life at the moment, in their rooms, mainly gaming. How to encourage them to try new things if I always get a no or not now. This includes saying no to uh, it's saying no to all or most appointments. Um, hmm, yeah, teenager years. Feels like a disconnection, especially in terms of values and education and et cetera, et cetera. I want to start off by saying this is another very present conversation in the Mosaic Collective. Um, Again, I'm a guide. I'm not only a guide, one of the four guides in the collective space with Mosaic, but I am also an advisor for Mosaic. But with that out of the way, yeah, this is just a very present conversation that we're having. And I think the topics are definitely teens and their distance, or what seems to be distance. Um, yeah, and then just trying to read that as a parent, trying to figure out, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough to stay connected? What does connected look like in the teenage years? Does it change? Um, and it's a lot of like trying to read between the lines. And then another piece that comes up for me is like living smaller lives. Um, for the teens themselves, what is a full life for them, or what feels comfortable now, what feels right now. Um, and I'll dig into a bit more into both of those as I talk more. But as always, if you have any other thoughts to add to this feedback, places where you disagree with me or that would never work for my family, feel free to leave a comment on YouTube, send me an email if you are signed up, um, or leave me a new question. Yeah. So, okay, a couple things that come up for me. Strewing. Um, Strewing is different in the teenage years. Okay, so I'll get to that. But if you do strewing, what have your teens reacted positively towards so far? Um, and for teens, strewing is not like, let's leave a couple books for the library. Maybe it is. Maybe it is that. And maybe it still is like, hey, let me leave out an art activity that they could do, but maybe not, and maybe most likely not. So maybe strewing for teens is like, hey, here's a cool Netflix show based on some of the things that you were interested in. Um, here's a meme that just made me think of you. Here's a YouTube video, an interesting article. It has to be connected. Like you have to understand at least to some extent what what your young person is into, what's kind of high on their mind right now. Um, and try to add to that or try to offer for that. Strewing is strewing strewing is never like a win-win thing, okay? Because sometimes strewing can be felt as very coercive. This is for any age person. Um, so it has to be done meaningfully and with a lack of agenda. Okay. The only agenda in strewing should be like, I care about this person. Um, I I'm I feel a relationship with them, and this made me thought of them, or they might be interested in this. Not like, this is a little bit more academic of the things that they've been talking about, and I want to bring them that way. Or have they haven't really talked much about math, so let's see if we can get them down this road. Um, and for some families, that actually works. For some young people, it's like, oh, cool, like I am interested in this cool math problem or whatever. Um, but I'm gonna say for most, and especially for most teens, that's gonna feel like intrusive and weird. So you have to, again, be very discerning about who your particular young people are, what they're interested in, and how you can just be there. All right. Um, Yeah, I'll talk about like asking them. I think that's an important part here, but I'll get to that. I think that it is so important that we have that conversation with them. Um, yeah. All right. So how do your young people experience what you call a restricted life? Okay, because restricted life, that has a different meaning for everyone. Um, do they feel they need a bigger life? And this might be true, but this might also not be true. They might feel like, hey, I'm feeling like kind of stuck right now with what I'm doing. It seems like much of the same. And even though the games aren't boring, I feel bored with the direction of my life. That is a possibility. There's another possibility that they're like, I just don't have the energy for more right now. And is that okay? Um, because the teenage years are a time of, not only puberty, but like shifting mindsets, understanding the world in a different way, trying to figure out their own identity, in a way that they haven't before. Uh, so it's like a time of marination, recalibration, a time to like really sit and not for all teens, but especially for the ones that are like the the parents or caregivers are like, well, my teen's been locked in the room for a while and I just don't I want to check in on them. Um, yeah, so how do they feel about this? What's the conversation that you've had like, hey, this is what I feel about this as the parent. I wholly understand that that might not be how you feel about this, and I want to know how you feel. Um, right. Do they need a bigger life? Do they feel a need for that? Do they actually feel stuck? Is there a part of the teenage experience or other experience that they're processing or healing from? That's a deep conversation. It's a vulnerable conversation. And for some families, this is an awesome conversation. And for other families, this is a really awkward conversation that is met with blank stares. Um, but that doesn't mean you don't have it. That doesn't mean you don't try, right? Um, Do they feel, okay, so this is where I'm getting to this. Do they feel you are pushing too much even when you're trying to gently nudge? Like, hey, let's go outside, or hey, we have that appointment today. Let's like remember noon, that's when we want to leave the house. Um, do they feel bombarded, right? So I think that understanding their mindset and how they're feeling and how they're relating to all of this is going to help you answer a lot of your own questions. Um, but also, what about you? Do you, as the parent, the caregiver, do you feel a need for a less restricted life? Because that's what it sounds like in the question. Um, how to encourage them to try new things if I always get a no or not now, and they have quite a restricted life. Um, because I think in a lot of ways, in the way society is, what our children are doing, if they're not getting out of the house, then it's harder for us to get out of the house, right? And so by proxy, their restricted life makes your life feel a lot more restricting, um, or restrictive, whichever. Yeah, I think that it's important to think about you. Does their current seemingly withdrawn lifestyle feel a little suffocating for you? And if so, how can you meet your needs? How can you say, hey, I'm feeling cooped up. You're both teenagers. I'll be outside for an hour. I'm going on a walk, or I'm gonna meet up with a few friends. And maybe that works for your family, maybe that doesn't. Maybe you still need a babysitter. You need like a grandparent around or something like that for a certain amount of time. Um, yeah. Um, I think another thing for the parent too, which I don't want to let go of, is reading into what's in the future. Like what thoughts come up when you think about them, quote unquote, launching. Um, And when I think about launching, I think about like getting into a career or becoming established or getting their own place. And that's not necessarily, that's what I think of. That's not necessarily how I define it. So I would also ask, what is launching for you? Um, what if they never launch? Is a good question to ask and answer. Um, Because I think it sets a baseline. Like, what is the worst case scenario in terms of launching? What if they're always at home and they only have a part-time job? Um, is that so bad? Does that mean you failed your young people or that they failed at life? Um, and I don't have an answer for you for this, but I feel like in my life there has been a large shift and a lot of weight lifted off my shoulders when I kind of did this thought experiment. And I think one of my concerns when my son always talked about like, no, I don't want to drive. I don't want to be a driver ever. I'm like, oh my God, how is he ever gonna leave the house? Um, and then a few years ago, he said something to the effect of, yeah, I don't want to move out. And I felt anxiety, but then like quickly when I reflected on that experience, I thought, what would be so bad about him not moving out and not driving? Do I think that that means he can't function in life? Like I love my son and I love having him around. Sure, we have our disagreements and times that I annoy him or he annoys me. Um, but I do love having him around. And financially, it wouldn't be an issue for us. Um, and I'm only looking to facilitate life for him. And if I'm coddling him, does that mean I'm holding him back? And I disagree with that. I think some families would say that's true. Um, And I think to some extent, in some areas of my life, that is something I think about. But I also think that when in doubt, society pushes too much. The societal norm is to push our young people too much. So, be hard at home or be hard at home so that they can get used to it being hard in the real world. Or they have to get started now because when are they going to get used to the real world? Um, I don't, I think we have to release the urgency for those timelines. The only urgency comes in when it is actually really urgent, and that is things like money. Like we don't have enough money in this household, so we need another earner if you're going to stay here. And that is a very real and very meaningful conversation. But if that conversation is not there for me, then it's like, well, why would I arbitrarily be pushing my child to achieve something sooner? Am I worried about appearances? Am I worried about um, being a bad parent because my son never quote unquote made it in other people's eyes? Um, yeah, I think that is a really good thought experiment, maybe a journal entry, maybe a conversation. Um, Maybe again with your young people, maybe that's a conversation that you want to have with your young people. Another thing to think about, and this comes from Leslie Bray, who I love, and is also a guide in the Mosaic Collective. She said, "What time of day do your young people come alive?" And I think, especially in the teenage years, this tends to look like, or the stereotypical issue is that it tends to look like it's around 10 p.m. or it's midnight or it's 2 a.m. Um, how does that work for the family? Can you support that? Can you be there when they want to be alive? The answer isn't always yes. Is there ways that you can support that? Is there ways that you can just be like acknowledge that um, and respect their needs in at that time? Because again, if your young people are just kind of gaming all day, maybe they're accomplishing other things at night that you're not really paying attention to when they are coming alive. Um, okay, a little back to strewing. When you are strewing, if you are strewing, can you ask for feedback on how and when you're offering? So, I mean, I include in strewing, I include like offering things, how to encourage them to try new things if I was going to know or not now, right? That was the quote. Um, I think experiences and events, I feel like that's strewing too. Like, hey, there's something cool at the library. It's free. Do you have any interest in this? Um, I don't have an agenda. I try not to have an agenda when I offer those kinds of things to my son. Most recently, there was we love our library. I probably say that a lot here, but there was an improv class. It was like 3 months, once a month, 3 months in a row, three classes of improv for young people. It was at night and it was just really fun. And my son was like, like, is that cool? I'm like, this is who we are as a family. We try to be funny. We come up with ideas off the top of our head. Like, that's what improv is. And even after the first class where he was like, I loved it. It was so much fun. I'm like, cool. Do you want me to sign up for the next two so we hold your spot? And he was like, no, let me just sign up for one. And I respected that. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, we should sign up for two. Like, you're gonna love it. Like, what would change? And he did love it, which was awesome. And it was not like an I told you so moment or anything like that. But it was because I knew him and I knew that that would be an exciting thing that I nudged more than I would have normally. Um, it's almost like a no, with families that try not to say no or yell only when it's an emergency, that no becomes really important, right? If your son is walking across, or your young person is walking across the road without looking, and there is a car coming screaming, is going to get their attention right away. But maybe not as much if you were kind of always screaming at home about this or that. So I think in a very similar way, um, when you nudge as a parent who has a track record of understanding your child, being real with them, being vulnerable with them, understanding when they disagree with what you offered and saying, yeah, I guess what you're saying is right. Okay, yeah, I'll back off, or yeah, I'll try and think of something else, or you know, cool. Just thank you for that information. Um, I think when you grow that track record, that trust allows this is what I've experienced at the very least, that trust between you, it allows you to trust the person a lot more unconditionally. Like, oh, I think they might be wrong, but they have my best interest, in mind. Um, so I'll try this out because they said so. And like, I see this in like books that we share, that we read. I don't always like the books that he offers me. He doesn't always like the books that I offer him. But I give like an explanation. Like, I think you'll like this book because this character does this thing that, um, or there's a lot of comedy and it's kind of like the other books that you said you really like, or this is a series kind of like the other series that you like. So anyway, building up over time, I think strewing as well as the relationship both have kind of a track record. So if you're always strewing things that are just missing the mark, then it's like the boy who cried wolf kind of a thing. And you gotta bring it back, recalibrate, and ask them like, well, what about this kind of a thing? Or do you want me to not strew anything right now? You know? Um, yeah, so asking feedback I went off on a tangent there. I think it was really important, but can you ask feedback for how and when you're offering? So like strewing, not only like, was this a good thing to be strewn? Do you think this was something that interested you? But also like, when do you want me to ask you? How do you want me to ask you? Do you want me to use Discord? I know you're on Discord. Do you want me to text you? Do you want me to leave notes? Do you want me to catch you up to speed at the dinner table? Um, and maybe none of those works, and you gotta keep digging. Or maybe none of those work all of the time. Um, And as someone with ADHD, I'm like right here and now. And so my son and um, I have good ideas. I think they're great ideas. Again, sometimes he turns them down. Well, maybe like half the times he t turns down what I offer him, half or a little bit more. And then the other percentage of the time, he's like, okay, yeah. But my problem is I'm like, oh, cool. I just read about this cool thing at the library. I'm doing my email right now. Let me run into my son's room while he's talking with a friend and playing on Roblox, this game that he's really interested in, and get his attention and ask him if he wants to do this thing because I want to sign him up right now while it's still on my mind. Um, yeah, taking a pause, writing notes for yourself, to address those later when our young people might be a little bit more open to getting that offering, right? Um, okay. I think this phase of life where the teenagers have quite a restricted life, I think this can feel very shaky for a parent. I can feel like this can feel um it can give you the wobbles. Like what's going wrong? How do I adjust to this period? Did I do something wrong that they're here? What do I have to do differently to get them to advance? Um, and I think those are common questions, but maybe not the right questions, because generally I fall in the persuasion of like, well, what growth is happening here that I'm not seeing? What are they processing? Um, and maybe there's none, right? Maybe there's none that both parties can really put their finger on. And I think that's important information for you all as well. But I think one good question would be, how can you be present with the uncertainty of this phase as they both likely are? Because again, these years, the teenage years it's really uncertain. It's a shaky area. It's like, well, what am I going to be when I grow up? What about my developing body? What about how I like this person and can't even go near them? And what about, um, my extreme lack of confidence with everything right now? Um, and on top of that, my mom is always trying to push me to do something that I don't want to do, maybe. Um, so they're very present in this moment. How can you be more present and accepting of the uncertainty? Like, hey, this is what it is right now. Can I be present with it? And I don't want to say like this is a phase because what that implies, it's like, we'll get over it. But I think being here, being present doesn't mean saying that this is a phase so much. I think it's just more of like being here and being curious, right? And then when you sit back and you have these questions of like, what am I doing wrong? How can I help them get from point A to point B, etc. When those bubble up, it's like those questions are important, but it's also important to question those questions. Like what is point A to point B and who set that? And did my young people have any say in the setting of what B is and why we should get there and when we should get there? Um, because it's their lives, right? Um, Yeah, so I mean, like I think there is a grain of truth in like this too shall pass, but I just don't want you to get caught up in like, okay, let's just wait until it's over. All right, because there is life is happening right now too, right? Um, and what's cool about being present is where when you can start to pick out what is rewarding, what can you celebrate right now. And I think what's helpful for a parent is practicing gratitude. This is something I do almost every night. I try to think of at least three things that I'm grateful for. I'll lie in bed sometime either right before I'm reading or sometime right before I'm sleeping. And I think about like, well, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I have a fan over my head right now because it is really hot in here. I'm grateful that I had time to connect with my wife today and we did this. I'm grateful for the pool that we went to a few days ago. I'm grateful for the awesome meal that we cooked together, or my wife cooked, or even my son cooked. Um, I'm grateful for the chance to, like, even this is meta and sounds stupid, but I'm grateful for the chance to really think about the things that I'm grateful for, this space right now. Um, I'm grateful for my soft sheets. I'm grateful for the chance to be able to read tonight, this book that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. Um, and the more that you do that, it's kind of like meditation. It's not like you meditate and then you're good. It's not like you have anxiety. Hold on, let me meditate. Okay, my anxiety is gone. It's like the more that you do it, it builds up over time. And so now I can sit down. Before it like really took me time to like, okay, well, this thing and hold on, let me think, what else? What else is there that I could be grateful? Now I'm like, ba 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 ba. Yeah. And so it's this whole mindset shift of what is exciting. Now, I think when I'm talking about this, I'm also talking about like when do your young people naturally kind of filter into that thought exercise? When do you start to think about them, about the things that you're grateful for them? I'm grateful that even though they're maybe a little bit more distant now, I'm grateful that can still feel love from them in these ways. I'm grateful that I can still try to strew and facilitate things for them. Um, and if you do get curious and sit by them and game with them, you're going to be grateful for that experience too, I promise you. Um, yeah. Right. So, like, I think that is a thing. Like, have you tried gaming with them? Have them teach you what to do, or, teach you about what they're doing. The more you can see from what they're doing, the less you'll feel like life is stagnant. How can you observe? how can you be the observer or the student? It can be fun. And I'm saying this from a lot of experience. But what you're doing is you're being curious and you're being vulnerable. And are you okay with those things? And what is your limit on that? What are your boundaries? Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe it's like I can't take any of the games where the 3D world is constantly shifting because it makes me dizzy. Um, or nothing violent. I can nothing vi violent, no jump scares. What can you teach me that doesn't include those? I think that's important. Um, but like I've known a lot of parents that have gotten into Minecraft with their kids and it's just fun. And you can always relate back to that. It's not even like, hey, it's Minecraft time, let's talk about the cool things we did. My son will be like, man, I really want to get back into our Minecraft world. Or, hey, that reminds me of the thing that we did in Minecraft, just like this. So it's like I don't know, a mutual kind of memory. Again, something that you're building off of. The more that you can build this core base of your experiences, of your trust, etc., the better, right? That is what our relationship is built off of. Um, And then let's address the last thing that I'll say is let's address like what appointments are they missing? Because I think this is the most concerning thing, and it's the most concerning thing, and it's probably concerning for them too, but like what is the barrier? Okay. So there should be a family agreement based on your family, the understanding of who your family members are. If you have someone with a PDA profile, it's going to be a much different agreement than, just a teen that is kind of feeling lazy, quote unquote lazy, or not feeling motivated to make it to the eye doctor, you know? Um, so it should be a family agreement. And a family agreement isn't like, hey, we're always going to make it to every appointment. Maybe that's not your family agreement. Maybe it's like, we are going to try our best. Or maybe your family agreement is all medical appointments because we are penalized for not going, we have to go. Otherwise, you're paying us, the parents, or something. I don't know. Like we schedule together and then we have to commit unless it's an emergency. I feel like that would be something that I would offer in like a family meeting and say, hey, can we agree on this? Or what do you think? Because health is important, right? These appointments. And maybe it's mental health, like these appointments. Maybe it's physical health. Um, yeah. Uh, The other thing that I would bring up too is like I hold the mental load of scheduling these appointments, and it's your responsibility to stick to this. What am I not doing what am I doing that doesn't work for you? Am I not scheduling with you to make sure that the appointment works for you? Um, because that might be the truth. Like maybe it's like, no, never at noon, because that's when my event happens for this game that I do. Like that's what I told you. I can't do that. And then to honor that, okay, well, let's try for 2 p.m. Um, yeah, I think thinking about health and safety and money and how it affects everybody in the family. Okay. It's not just like okay, well, let's let our kids do whatever they want. It's like, well, why don't they want to do this? What is the barrier in the way? How can we honor their needs, but also, you know, establish an agreement about the value of health and safety and whatnot. Um, yeah, and if there is a barrier that you're able to identify, how can I help? And at the same time, these are my expectations. Let's have a conversation about that. Um, so I feel like talking through this one for me was pretty straightforward, but I don't think the answer is very straightforward. I think the answer is local. I think the answer is family specific and even young person specific, because just because you have two teenagers who are in the rooms mainly gaming doesn't mean that it's the same reason that they're giving you a no or not now. Um, yeah, just I think it's a a lot of larger conversations. I think it's really questioning what your urgency is, um, what your expectations are, and then really thinking through like setting a limit on like what it means for appointments and an agreement on how appointments are accomplished, and how you can help them to do that. All right. As always, if you have anything to add to this conversation, please either email me or leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Um, yeah, but I'll see you again next week. All right. See you all.